The Spiel des Jahres has announced their nominees for this year, and we're going to talk about them here because, unlike past years, we have some familiarity with some of these games.
Well, yeah, we actually have all three of the games in question this year, which doesn't always happen.
No.
And now, yes, that's the first one that we want. We actually just got this one in.
We do have it. We don't have experience with it quite yet.
We don't. This literally just arrived. This is Captain Flip. This was the number one, the first, number one. They're not ranked. The first on the list of the Spiel des Jahres. Now,
on the list we saw anyway.
Now, if you don't know what the award is, there's actually 3 different levels. But the big one, like the big game of the year, is actually like the medium weight level. So it's not like the heaviest games.
Light. I'd say light.
There's the kids one, which I would call the lighter one.
This is a light game.
There's
the Spiel's very light.
Lighter, and then slightly heavy.
Kenner is definitely not heavy, but Kenner is medium weight.
Okay, well,
there's never been a Vital Lacerda, and nor will there ever be a Vital Lacerda in the Spiel.
Medium, light kids, basically.
Yeah, I would say so. But the light one, the sort of family weight, gateway style games is the one that sort of gets the most attention. That's the Spiel. Those are the first ones we're going to talk about mostly. It's Captain Flip, In the Footsteps of Darwin, and Sky Team. Yeah. If you know the channel at all, you've seen us play Sky Team quite a bit. You've seen us talk about it. You've even seen us play In the Footsteps of Darwin.
That one was a Mensa Select.
Speaking of which, depending on when you're watching this, you can also see us Captain Flip. If you're watching this today, we'll probably be playing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But Captain Flip. Here, I'll just tell you what you do. This is how simple this game is. Draw a character. Don't like it? Flip it over for a different one. Place it on your board.
And that's it.
That's it. That's what you do on your turn. You're basically drawing tiles out of a bag, and you have to carefully do so you don't look at both sides. And you look at one side and go, do I want this guy? And all of these characters are going to score in a variety of different ways based on adjacency to the tiles, and whatnot. You don't like it? You can flip it over. Once you flip it over, you're placing it down. Or if you don't flip it over, you've placed it down on your board somewhere. Players are going to keep doing that until someone has 4 columns filled. And then you score them tile by tile because they're all going to be like, oh, this one's going to score for my column or the row that it's in. Or this one lets me pay a coin or take a coin and then flip an adjacent tile. Doing all sorts of crazy things sort of during the scoring as well to maximize your points. That is what a Spiel game is.
Yeah, I would say that Footsteps of Darwin shares a little bit of that same level of like very, very simple to teach. I mean, Footsteps of Darwin is the same way. You're looking at a board based on where the beagle is. It's surrounding these tiles, like floating around them, and you're drafting tiles. You're drafting tiles, putting them on your board.
And that's set collection, basically.
That's really the whole game. You're trying to collect sets. You're collecting these achievement cards that are scoring you points. There's a variety of different animals. It's also very, very simple in that on your turn, you literally are just taking a tile and then moving the beagle. Of course, there's some ways to mitigate that. You can put some tokens. So there's still like depth of strategy. There can be some hate drafting. There can be different strategies that emerge based on the scoring cards that you get. But I think that the Spiel likes that level of depth without a huge complex rules teach.
100%. That is what it is. It's like these are easy games to play. Not terribly even. They have some depth, but not so much depth that you're like having players at the table going, what's this again? It's all pretty straightforward gameplay.
So that actually surprises me with Sky Team because Sky
Team is
a bit more of a rules teach than these other games.
I would 100% agree with that. With that said, spoiler alert, I'm going to say right now, my early bet's on Sky Team.
I mean, so I'm torn. My personal pick of the 3 is Sky Team. I think Sky Team is one of the most innovative and interesting, especially 2-player games that we've seen in a very long time. I do worry that for the judge level of Spiel, it might be too much. That they might be more comfortable with, like, In the Footsteps of Darwin.
I suppose, but I have to say I would put that decision on them during the nomination process.
Sure.
Like, if they're gonna nominate it, they shouldn't be allowed to say, well, this one's a little too complex. You put it in the category. So my early bet would be on that. Now, with that said, things like Captain Flip, I almost dropped it.
You almost flipped it.
Flipped off the table. No, Captain Flip, I think, is a more recent release for sure. It's like on the hotness as of the time we're recording this. We're going to live stream it, which of course is going to give it a huge bump.
Sure.
When we live, I'm kidding. But it's newer. In the Footsteps of Darwin, I think, is maybe a little bit newer. Sky Team definitely had the most notoriety, I think, of all of these.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sky Team was another one that...
It hit so big last year during the con season.
It was huge. I mean, it was sold out. Every con it was in, it sold out. I think that still to this day, Sky Team is a much sought-after game.
Yeah,
I think it has a very strong chance of winning.
Yeah, I do think that will win. Now, we did want to mention the Kennerspiel. This is the slightly heavier games. These are sort of the more medium weight games. And there are 3 games on this list as well.
Yeah, and one of my favorite games finally came out in Germany. That's another thing we should mention. It has to have come out in Germany for it to qualify.
Yeah, that's a good preface to what he's about to say, because this game is 2 years old here.
This game is 2 years old here, but Guild of Merchant Explorers just came out in Germany, so it's finally getting the recognition I think that it deserves. This is another great game. It kind of fits with their mentality of like it's very easy to learn. You're flipping over a card, you're putting some cubes down, you're building this map. This game is satisfying to me on almost every level. So I really am pushing for this one. If the judges are watching, I think this is a really good...
They all listen to Ryan. He's got a direct line to all the judges.
I think this is a really good pick. I really enjoy that game. And I don't think it got as much recognition as it deserved on the US side.
I agree.
But seeing it be nominated for the Kennerspiel is good. But it does have some stiff competition.
It does have some stiff competition and much newer competition, much top of mind. Before we get to that competition, I do want to make one note on that. As I'm thinking of the gameplay of Guild of Merchant Explorers, it too feels like it could be a Spiel nominee, not the Kenner.
I think it could. We've seen this before in years past where we're like, this one kind of straddles the line.
Yeah.
I think that the heaviness of the complexity of your decisions and like how you're building that out, and like it's a little more fiddly
Maybe
with putting
the variability.
Out those cubes out. There's a lot of variability.
Yeah.
It does feel a little bit of a step up from like Footsteps of Darwin, but if they had put it in this category, I don't think I would have batted an eye either.
Yeah, for sure. But back to the Kennerspiel, there are 2 other games, one of which is Daybreak.
Yeah.
I have not played Daybreak. Have you played Daybreak?
I have played Daybreak. Very good.
Daybreak is a much newer game. When did this hit?
Last year. Towards the end of late last year, early this year maybe even.
But this is a very sort of, thematically, it's a very sort of environmentally conscious of game. That's
very
what the whole theme is about. So what is the game? What are you doing in the game?
You're saving the world from climate change, basically. And it's by Matt Leacock, the designer of Pandemic. Yep. So we're working together. It's fully cooperative. And again, it's like, a ideal view of the world when you're playing all these different countries that all have their own energy needs. They all have their own pollution they're creating. And all of those energy needs have to be met while you're trying to eliminate the pollution. And this is done through a very interesting card system where you're playing these cards to different actions and then taking those actions, and they could get better or worse as you're kind of putting those cards in play. And you're trying to control the temperature. You're trying to stop the world from getting polluted. You're trying to actually maybe even reverse pollution and remove pollution from the world while you're trying to manage your own board. So it is very, very cooperative. You really need to be working together to have a shot at winning this game.
It does seem interesting because this one sounds significantly heavier than Guild of Merchant Explorers.
But again, it does have that fairly easy teach in that, like, if you're playing for the first time, it does require more upkeep, I think, from somebody that really knows the rules to like, okay, I'll manage the global board and I will manage the event cards and I'll manage all this. But all you need to worry about is playing a card and doing an action, right? That's simple turns. But you're right, it is definitely probably the heaviest one on this list.
The last one on the list, which I believe neither of us have played,
not yet,
is Ticket to Ride Legacy. Both of us want to play it. We don't have a copy of it yet.
I need a copy and I need a solid group.
It's been out for a minute. That's the key, is getting a solid group. Now, Ticket to Ride, obviously, is one of the granddaddies of the hobby. I would be interested to see what kind of role that plays, just the sort of IP leverage when it comes to the voting process. It is a legacy game, and I don't know if a legacy game has ever been in the Spiel.
Is Pandemic Legacy never?
I don't know.
I feel like one of them was nominated.
It was a big game, but I don't know if that was Spiel material.
Yeah, I don't remember. I have to look.
But anyway,
that's something we should have looked up before
we'll research that, and there's a text box right now that says they're wrong or they're right. But anyway, the third one is Ticket to Ride Legacy, or I forget what it's called. It's not called that, but it's the legacy version
Legends of the West?
Legends of the West or something like that. So this one is on the list too. Again, it's probably, from what I've understood, it starts off, you're basically just playing effectively Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
And then it adds a little bit from there. It is interesting to consider a Spiel nominee that has evolving rules, which is why I kind of thought that maybe a legacy game had not been one before.
Yeah, that is an interesting idea. I mean, that you're
because it's not exactly an easy rules teach.
But again, it is what I love about legacy games. Pandemic Legacy was great. It starts off very basic with a very basic set of rules, but it adds rules as you go. So by the end of the game, you're playing a very complex version of Pandemic, but you don't feel the overload of learning 20 rules at once. It does a really good job of
that's
spreading them out over the sessions.
Anyway, those are the games that are nominated for the Spiel. The ones for the Kenner. There's also the Kennerspiel. We don't talk about those as much because these are very, very childlike games.
And they're all in German. So they're all German games.
And that is the case. They almost always are.
Yeah, almost.
They're almost always ones we've never heard of. As we go down to the Kinder, it's like, what? And it's all Haba. Or, you know,
it's like that level of...
It's that level of... It's that
but
type
Wolfgang
of game.
Warsch has a new one. So at least that one I'm excited about.
Wolfgang Warsch, who we haven't heard from. It doesn't feel like we've heard from him.
Well, I have the Clanks of Cledenberg? They did the kids version of that.
Yeah.
I play that with my kids still all the time.
There's also a dual version of that, right?
Yeah, there is.
That coming
I don't know
out?
if it's out in the U.S. yet or not, but anyway.
Anyway, we're getting off track. If you have any questions about any of those games, at least the ones we've played, we can get down in the comments and talk to you about them. If there are some games that you thought, oh, this one's absolutely gone, let us know.
Yeah.
Which one do you think is going to
Go
win?
to Merchant Explorers.
Either the Spiel or the Kennerspiel. We have our own opinions. I'm still saying Sky Team.
I really want Sky Team.
We didn't talk about Kenner. Do you think Guild?
I think Guild. Mm-hmm. I think Guild is, of the three, Guild for me is the most satisfying game.
I mean, I agree. I would probably choose Guild, and that's not having played.
You didn't play either of the other two.
Either of the other two.
I demoed Ticket to Ride, and I played Daybreak.
My heart is with Guild.
Yeah.
My heart is with Guild, and I think Sky Team will win the other one. But let us know what you think down below. What will win, what will lose, what wasn't nominated that should have been nominated. Until next time, though, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.